Peace, peace. ETM Hotep. Welcome to the Seshew channel. This is your brother Wujau Manib Maat. And today is Sunday, May 8th. And it is Mother's Day. All right, so shout out to all of the mothers, all of you mothers out there. Celebrate your day, celebrate yourself, celebrate your motherhood. All right, now, many people say, Mother's Day is every day, which is true. If you are a mother, then obviously every day you are still a mother. But obviously we take time out to actually acknowledge and celebrate those things that we tend to take for granted on a day-to-day basis. All right, so they should have a life day, because every day we're alive, we are alive, we're living, right? But we should take time out to just appreciate the fact that we're alive. We don't have that. But anyway, so again, ETM Hotep, welcome anybody who is tuned in now, or who may be tuning in to watch the archive. This is another Seshew Snackable. So this video is going to be as brief as I possibly can, but I'm going to share some snackables, some nuggets. Make sure you get your barbecue sauce, your sweet and sour sauce for these nuggets that I'm about to share, and all of that good stuff. All right. So shout out to everybody who is in the chat now. We got Teddy Wasimat Ross and Neferu, Brother Donnie Williams, Mark White, Miss Lamb, Hotep, and happy Mother's Day to you. All right. So again, happy Mother's Day. Celebrate our women, the women in our community, the women collectively, are caretakers, nurturers of the entire community. So in that regards, happy Mother's Day to all. All right. So let me jump on in. All right. Not waste any time. So the title of today's video, as you can see, is, and I forget the exact titles that I create. Seshew Snackables, Ranykemet grammar, the genitive. All right, so I know, first thing you're like, well, what is a genitive? It sounds like, is that, genitive? That sounds a little different. Genitive. Well, first, just so everyone will understand, when I say Ranykemet is the indigenous name of the ancient Egyptian language. All right, so if you ever hear me say it, I've been saying it for a long time. And in case you don't know what that is, that's what it's referring to, the ancient Egyptian language. Sesh Netcher is a reference to the writing script or the writing system. And Ranykemet is a reference to the spoken language. Now, some people interchange, when they say the word language, they could mean either or, the writing or the spoken. So when we come together and we have these discussions, I make sure that a distinction is made, all right, so that we can remove any possible confusion. All right, so today's topic is going to be the genitive. Now, this is our second video in a series of the Seshew Snackables. The first one was not too long ago. I believe that was 2 days ago. I went over sentence structure. All right. Now, excuse me. I want to pick up. I want to go backwards and touch on that a little bit, because people have inboxed me and asked me to show an example of each one that I showed as far as sentence structure. So I'm going to start with that before I get into the genitive. So let me quickly reset everything over here. Give me 1 second. You would think that I would be prepared. Actually, I'm prepared to go into the genitive, but I'm just want to kind of go backwards for a hot second to make sure I cover those questions. All right, don't want to leave anybody out there. Okay. So let's go back. Now, where I left off last snackable, one of the 6-piece nuggets that I gave was I spoke about word order, and mind you, this is under the last video as far as sentence structure, and the word order. I talked about word order, pretty much the last thing I mentioned. But when I talked about the different types of sentences, I mentioned substantival, adjectival, adverbial, existential, etc. But I didn't go into much detail as far as giving examples in Ranykemet. So I'm just going to show one example of each real quick right now, and then we'll move forward to the genitive. So on the screen now, hopefully you all can see this. Let me make sure that you all can see it. Okay, so here's an example of a substantival sentence. And for those who did not tune in last week, make sure you tune in. Make sure you view the video in the archive. View all of our videos whenever you get a chance. But to keep up with these snackables, make sure you revisit that video. But very quickly, when I say substantival sentence, the word substantive is a word that we use, but most people are used to using the word noun. All right, so when I say substantive, if you're not used to that, just think of a noun. Now, there's a reason why we don't use the word noun, but for this purpose, it wouldn't really make a difference for this conversation. So substantival sentence are nominal sentence or noun sentences. And so here's an example of one. So we have the sentence. You see the glyphs. Let me get my, you all know me, get my trusty arrow here. At the top, you see the Sesh, Medew, Netcher. All right. And then around it, what I did, I took time to put the transliteration of each of these glyphs there to kind of help people who are starting out, just to kind of see what each glyph represents in terms of its transliteration value. So the first glyph is a falcon. The value is capital H R W. And the case sensitivity is important for the transliteration system we call manual decodage. Okay, we have two systems that we use: manual decodage, you see abbreviated here, MDC, and the diacritic. And so I show the transliteration of this sentence in both manual decodage and diacritic. They're the same thing, it's just two different systems of transliterations. All right, so the sentence reads Heru pu neb tawi. Heru pu neb tawi. Now, as I said, we have Heru, the falcon, the stool, P, the quail chick, is a W, the basket is a bilateral neb or NB, and the strip of land with the 3 dots is ta. And we have two of those. And so the dual of ta is tawi. That's why you see tawi there. All right, there's a dual ending. And I don't want to get too complicated to speak on other grammar issues. I just want to keep it simple. But here's an example of a substantival sentence. So literally it would be Heru. The word pu is this. The word neb is Lord. And tawi is 2 lands. So literally it would be Heru, this Lord, 2 lands. But that makes no sense in English. So one of the things about translations, if you are going to translate something, in order to translate, what you're actually doing is you're moving meaning from a source context or language into a target language. And when we do that, we have to obey the rules of the target language in order for it to make sense. Okay, so what you see here on the screen, Heru, this Lord, 2 lands, it doesn't make, that's not a well structured sentence in English. even though that's what literally these words would translate to in the order in Ranykemet. So we always have to convert to agree with the rules of the target language. In our case, it'd be English. So we will write it like this: Heru is the Lord of the two lands. All right. Now, by it being a substantival sentence, there's no verb involved in the sentence. But in English, we have to imply one. We have to add is. Okay. The to be verb or copula. Heru is the Lord of the two lands. All right. Or we could say it this way: the Lord of the two lands is Heru. All right. And so that's an example of a substantival sentence. All right. And remember, substantive deal with entities, and substantival sentences express complete thoughts about entities. All right. So now the next one. And I want to kind of quickly go through the rest. I just want to explain that one really good, but then I'm going to quickly go through the rest of these examples. So here we have an adjectival sentence. There are the glyphs. The sentence reads, Au wat kemet. Au wat kemet. And literally it would be au, which is the word long. Then we have, I should point up here, but you see road, we have wat, which is road, and then kemet. So literally it'd be long road towards Kemet. Now we don't talk like that. We have to convert it, as I said. So the sentence would be, the road to Kemet is long. All right. The road to Kemet is long. All right. So that's an example of an adjectival sentence, being that the adjective is in the predicate. Aut or au is the adjective here, which is long, and it is in the predicate, and it begins the sentence. All right. So that's that one. And we're going to go to the next one. Here's an adverbial sentence. The glyphs are there, and it reads, you amen or you imen imta mehu. You imen imta mehu. And it reads, amen. If we were to read it literally, it'd be amen in land north. Now we don't talk like that. We have to convert it. And we would say in English, amen is in the north land. Now we know mehu or tamehu is lower Egypt or lower Kemet. So we could say amen is in lower Egypt or lower Kemet. All right, simple enough. Now it's adverbial because it deals with a circumstance. It places an entity in a circumstance. So amen is where? In the north. Okay, if I say the book is on the table, the keys are in the car. Those describe, or those refer to circumstances. It puts entities in circumstances. All right. So, and I already went over that. So that's the example there. Last one is existential sentences, which by definition are sentences that relate. It relates to circumstances, existence within circumstances together. And here are the glyphs for it. And it reads, you win hafau, which means there is a snake. The word hafau is the word for snake. And actually the word hafa is a verb. It's interesting. The word hafa is a verb that means to wind or to twist. To wind or twist. And so that's actually what a snake does. The snake zigzags and winds and twists and things. And so the verb to twist or wind becomes the substantive hafa'u. The verb hafa to twist becomes the substantive hafa'u for that which twists. And we interpret that as a snake. But it's literally saying that which twists or winds. Anyway, there you have it. Those are one example of each of those sentences. So hopefully that answers those questions that I received based on the last snackable. So now we're going to get into the May 8th Mother's Day snackable. All right. Hopefully you got your dipping sauce, your ranch, your barbecue, and everything. So today we're going to talk about the genitive, and I'm going to go through this, like I said, and be as simple as I can, get through it as quickly as I can without going too fast, because I want to take any questions that people may have for this, and I want to do all this within the hour. All right. So I technically have 40 minutes, y'all. 40 minutes. Let's see if I can do this. I should, because it's not much to this. All right. So the genitive. Now, before I get into the genitive, let me just explain. Remember last week I went through sentences, and sentences are complete thoughts. But we also have a syntactic unit called phrases, and we all use phrases a lot. You know, we're familiar with that. We have prepositional phrases, adverbial phrases, substantival phrases, adjectival phrases. You know, we use this even in English. Okay, and phrases are not complete thoughts. Okay, so it's different between a sentence and a phrase. Now, when it comes to genitive, we're speaking about a phrase structure, the structure of a phrase. And the word genitive simply refers to possession, ownership, possession. All right. So when you think of genitive, just think of possession. All right. Now, on the screen I have here. Now I'm not going to go too far into this. I'm going to discuss one type of phrase. And we're going to deal with a substantival phrase. And among substantival phrases, there are 3 ways in which they are expressed in Ranykemet, in the ancient Egyptian language. So what we would call in English noun phrases, we refer to as substantival phrases. And in the Egyptian language, there are 3 ways to express them. One is genitive. Where's my arrow here? One is a genitive structure or construction. The other one is called apposition. And the third is called connection. Now, ignore apposition and ignore connection, because I'm not going to go over that today. That's not what this video is about. I'm going to deal with the genitive. That's what it's all about today. All right. So we're discussing a genitive construction of substantival phrases. And of those, there are 2 types. One is called a direct genitive, and the other one is called an indirect genitive. All right, so I'm going to keep it simple. So we're talking about substantival phrase or phrases. We're talking about the type of genitive, and among those, there are 2. All right, so we're going to discuss this. All right, so let me switch over the screen, and I'm going to share, and we will be able to walk through this together. All right. Well, let me start by giving an example in English. In English, if I were to say bus stop, the word bus stop, or the 2 words bus and stop together, you know, depending on how you write it, you may write it as 1 word or 2 words. The phrase or the words bus stop, those are 2 words that are used and juxtaposed next to each other. The word bus is right next to the word stop, and it's used to refer to the same entity. Okay, the same entity, or I should say a single entity. So what the bus stop is, or what it means, is it refers to a place on a bus route where passengers can get on or get off the bus. That's what a bus stop is. Now let me give you another example. The word bedroom. The word bedroom is really two words, bed and room, but we would spell it all together, bedroom. And that too is a juxtaposed phrase, and it refers to a room where a bed is located. Usually, some people use their bedrooms for different things, but a bedroom is a room where a bed is located where you sleep. All right, so those are English examples of these instances. Now, they may call them compound nouns in English and things like that. Now, in ancient Egyptian or Ranykemet, the same thing is done where you juxtapose two nouns together, or as we would like to call them, substantives together, to express different things. And so this is why on the screen I have these three things. So when we put substantives together next to each other, we could be expressing the genitive, we could be expressing apposition, or we could be expressing connection. And like I said, we're going to ignore these two and we're only going to talk about the genitive. All right. So now, having said that, it should prepare us for what I'm about to share with y'all. All right. And let me get it on the screen so that we. Oh, I actually forgot to share this with y'all. I'll do that at the end. I don't want to mess up anything. I was going to share something else with y'all too about Mother's Day, but let's get into the snackable for today. All right. So now we have the genitive. And so I'm just going to, read and highlight some things as we go along. So we're discussing the genitive. What is the genitive? A genitive or genitival construction is a type of construction used to express a relation between two entities in which the first entity originates from or belongs to the second. That is possession. Remember what I said. When you think of the word genitive, just think of possession. It involves two substantives, the head or the modified substantive, and the dependent, which is the modifier substantive. All right, so we have a head word and a dependent word. The dependent substantive modifies the head by expressing some property of it. Okay? And it will have this adjectival feel to it. It will have this adjective feel to it. Okay, but it's actually not an adjective. Okay, that's important to understand. All right, it's a substantive. For example, in the construction king's crown, the word crown is the head and kings is the modifier, expressing a property of the crown, which means it is owned by the king. What about the crown? It's the king's crown. Not just the crown, but the king's crown. All right. And so king's crown would be a genitive construction. Now in English, because we speak English, we have to refamiliarize ourselves with this. In English, the genitive is expressed in two ways. The way number one, or the first way, is by use of the residual genitive case, which is a fancy way of saying the apostrophe S, like you see in King's Crown. The apostrophe S shows possession, right? Wujau's book. It means, I'm talking about my book. Possession. All right. An example, the man's son, the priest's wife, the tomb's door. See, the apostrophe S is there. Now, the second method in English to show the genitive is by placing the preposition of in between the two substantives or substantival phrases. So here's an example. The people of Kemet. You see? Or now, if we wanted to switch this, we could say Kemet's people. We could say Kemet's with apostrophe S, people. We'll be saying the same thing. Okay? Or even if we go back up here, we could say the wife of the priest. We could interchange. We could switch the way that we're doing it. So these are two methods. Another one, the place of water. The season of an inundation. Now, the choice between using the apostrophe or using the preposition is obviously based on prerogative and whatever makes the best sense. Okay, now we wouldn't say the waters place and put apostrophe after waters, because that doesn't really make sense, even though grammatically it would be perfectly fine. But that's not the way we use that in talk. We would say the place of water. Now for this one, the people of Kemet, that's fine, and Kemet's people would be appropriate and fine. We'd be used to that. Anyway, those are the two ways that we do it in English. Now, in Ranykemet, there are also two ways to express the genitive. But it's not with an apostrophe or any of that. It's called the direct genitive and the indirect genitive. Direct or indirect. All right, so we're going to show some examples of that. So the first one we're going to talk about is the direct genitive, which is a bound construction where two substantives are juxtaposed, which means they're one after another, with the genitive itself or the possessor substantive being the second in sequence. So the one that possesses or the possessor is the second substantive when the two of them are side by side. All right. Now, the direct genitive is used when the bond between the two entities is strong, as if the two concepts are a single one. Remember when I said bedroom? Remember, a bed is not a room. But when we put it together, we're using both of those words to refer to the same entity. Y'all follow that? All right, so Ranykemet is no different when it comes to direct genitives. All right, that's what I mean by the concept as if they were a single one. Now, such constructions can be translated in English by using the possessive ending, which is the apostrophe S, or the use of the word of. Okay, so here's some examples. So we have Ranykemet, which means or translates to the people of Kemet. And again, I could say Kemet's people and be perfectly fine. All right, but it's people of Kemet, Ranykemet. And notice that there's nothing in between the two words. Next one, Setmu, the place of water. By the way, I have here references where these phrases are actually attested. All right, in case you are you want to look further and see some context around these phrases. All right. Third, we have Ter Achet, which is season of inundation. Sa Zi, which is the man's son. Hemet Wab, the priest's wife. And Ra'is, which is the tomb's door. All of these are direct genitives. All right. Now notice that the second one in the sequence, the second word in the sequence is the possessor. The possessor. Ranykemet. So Kemet possesses Ranykemet. It's Kemet's people. All right. It's the place of water, the place belonging to water. All right. That could be a lake or whatever the case is. All right, to continue. Now, mind you, as I'm doing this, I'm not paying attention to the chat. I should have said that before. I'm not currently paying attention to the chat. So once I'm done, if you had any questions about anything, please don't hesitate to ask. All right. I had to say that because last time people, I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring them. Okay, to go on. The two substantive may be of any gender and number. So there's no need for agreement here. All right, no need for agreement. Which is called concord. No preposition or particle intervenes between the two substantives. In fact, with few exceptions, and they're rare, nothing ever intervenes between two substantives in a bound construction. And that's the definition of a bound construction. In this case, there's nothing in between there. They're bound together with no intermediary, no middleman. All right. It is not uncommon to find a direct genitive after the substantive neb, which means lord, master, or nebet, this is the masculine, a nebet, which is mistress or lady, which is the feminine, in royal titularies and divine epithets. For example, we have neb tawi. Excuse me. We have neb tawi, which is lord of the two lands. Or we could say it would sound funny, but we could say it, the two lands lord, with an apostrophe. Second one, nebet punt, the feminine possessor, or we say mistress, of punt. And, I had a whole conversation about mistress and lord, but I'll save that for another time. But the point here is that after the word neb or nebet, the word after would usually be a genitive construction. All right. Now here's some more examples of direct genitive constructions. But when we translate it as an idiom. These are idiomatic expressions when we bring it into English. Okay. So here's an example. Now, in order to know this and translate this, what I say is that we have to learn this ad hoc, meaning that these are things that you're informed about by way of the culture itself. Okay, so you're not going to be a beginner just starting out and willy-nilly and translate these things this way. It's just not going to happen. You have to be a little more seasoned, and it takes time to engage the culture for these idioms to be figured out. Okay, and that's what idioms are. Idioms are expressions that are not used in their literal sense. So here's some examples. So we have the word set-a, which is literally the place which is set, and then a is the word for arm. So it's literally the place of the arm. But it actually means in the context, it's a word for action, which is something you do with your arms. Okay. Another one, tepra, which is literally the tip, which is the word tep, the top or tip of the mouth. Now, mouths don't, we say top lip or something, but the mouth, the tip of the mouth, that's literally what it is. But it's used to express utterance, tepra, which is an utterance, something you say. Last night, somebody asked me, what are some other names of the Egyptian language prior to them formerly calling the country Kemet? Because when I say Ranykemet is the name of the language. And so here's an example of another example, an option that people may choose as to identify language. The word tepra, I said Jed Medew, tepra, I said Ra or Raul, words like that. That's what I mentioned last night. Last one, set-ib, which is literally set is placed, like up here, the first one. And ib is they translate as heart, but it's actually the mind. So it would literally be the place of the heart or place of the mind, but idiomatically it would simply means affection, to show affection. All right. So that's what genitive constructions are also used for. Now, when we transliterate them, we usually use a hyphen. Okay, so sometimes people see hyphens, sometimes you don't. This is one of the reasons why. All right. Now, so all that I explained so far is the genitive construction, but we just spoke about direct genitives only. Now we're going to move to the second type. The second type is the indirect genitive. All right. The indirect genitive construction, which links two substantives, it's the same thing, but by way of what's called a genitival adjective, which is the word ni. And it means belonging to, owned by, or belonging to, etc., etc. Possessed by, belonging to, owned by, all those good things. Now, the genitival adjective ni is itself a Nisbe adjective that is derived from the preposition in, which means two or four. And I'm not here to discuss the Nisbe adjective, so I'm going to skip it, and that's what I actually say here. It will be discussed later. And mind you, what I'm sharing here is one of the first iterations of the grammar book that I will be publishing sometime this year. Okay, so when you see what I have highlighted, it says section X, because the book is still in the process of making. The section numbers and things, obviously I don't have them numbered the way that they're going to end up being, so I just put a placeholder here for that, just so y'all know. We're wondering, well, why do you say section X? Okay, so now, like other dependent adjectives, ni agrees in gender and number with the preceding substantive. Its full declensional paradigm is as follows. All right, so here are the examples of, or the paradigm for, the genitival adjective ni. If it's masculine and singular, you will simply see ni. If it's feminine and singular, you will see neat. But now notice that I have the Y in parentheses. The reason for that is because in the glyphs, it's often omitted. And when we transliterate glyphs that are omitted, we put them in parentheses. This is the common practice in this study. All right. So if you see that, that's why. The masculine plural would be niu. This is why you hear me say Ra'u niu peret imheru, for the name of the Book of the Dead. Not Ra'u net or Ra'u in peret imheru and things like that. It's properly said niu. Not just runu peret imheru. That's how people will say it, but more properly niu. Feminine is niut. A feminine plural, that is niut. The masculine dual is niwi. Feminine dual is niti. The duals are rare. All right, so you will rarely see these, but they do exist. Now, in practice over time, the Y in all of this became omitted, and so we will see it often just within the water ripple, or just new, or just net. Okay. Now to continue forward, the masculine singular of the genitival adjective in looks identical to the preposition in. When you see a water ripple, you see a water ripple, right? And so some people get confused about that. And so the only way that you can know if it's the in as a preposition or if it's the in as the genitival adjective is by way of context. Okay, context and experience with the culture, dealing with this. That's the only way. And that's what I mean, when I say just starting out as a beginner, it will take time. Now, because of these common forms omitting the Nisbe ending, Egyptologists rarely transcribe the Y altogether. However, we will continue to do so in this grammar by placing it within parentheses, and I just expressed that to y'all. All right, so here's some examples of indirect genitives. So we have ibnizi, which means the mind of the man. Chau niunk, the breath of life. The word breath, chau, of unk, life. Seshta ni Medew Netcher. That's interesting. The secrets of the divine words, or the secrets of God's words. We dealing with the secrets of the universe. Next one. Niut Neet Nehi, which is the city, Niut, and the Neet of Nehi, eternity. Last, we have Hebu Niu Cherit Netcher, which is Hebu, the festival, Niu of, and then Cherit Netcher. See that hyphenated there? That's a direct genitive, by the way. It means necropolis. Okay. So that I just discussed is the indirect genitive. So altogether, I went over the direct genitive and the indirect genitive. As you can see, the difference is that the indirect genitive sticks the word new, or the genitival adjective in between the two substantives. That's easy enough, right? That's real easy to remember. Okay, so now that's that. But now, as an extra bonus, I want to quickly discuss genitive inversion. So what we discuss in genitives, the two types. But now, when it comes to direct genitives that we already discussed, there's a phenomenon called genitival inversions. Now, the AKA, or what is also known as, is honorific transposition. So if you ever hear anybody mention it in the YouTube land, honorific transposition, that's what it's called, but it's more technically called genitive inversion. All right? Because now it describes what it's actually doing. It's a genitive, it shows possession, but it's inverted. All right? So I'm going to show you some examples. So a direct genitive inversion. So we have hut Netcher. But if you look at the it won't let me highlight these glyphs. But if you look at the glyphs, the word Netcher is written first in the writing system, in the script. But we pronounce it hut Netcher, which is the second word. So this is the correct way. This is actually what it is, hut Netcher, but it's written where the second substantive is placed or inverted, is placed first. And we do it out of honor. That's why they call it honorific transposition. But it's a genitive inversion. So it would mean the domain of God. Okay? But we simply say temple. Hut Netcher is the word for temple. Now, an indirect genitive, we have Zini Waseret. Zini Waseret. And it means the man of the powerful one. And most people know this person as Senusret or Sesostris. But if you look at the glyphs, the name Waseret is written first in the Shenu. Within the Shenu, you have Waseret is written first, but it's pronounced last. See Waseret? But in the Shenu is Waseret Sini. All right, so that's an example of a direct genitive inversion and an indirect genitive inversion, or what we nickname honorific transposition. So here's some more common ones, and I'll end here. So here's some common ones. Now, in the past, I've often engaged conversations with people who don't believe in honorific transposition, which amazes me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because people will tell me that they don't believe honorific transposition is real and that Egyptologists made it up. But yet, they'll say things like Medew Netcher. Like, they'll say Medew Netcher out their mouth. And then at the same time say, I don't believe in honorific transposition. Egyptologists made it up. Then why are you saying Medew Netcher? And here's the point. The very word Medew Netcher that everybody says is a genitive inversion because the word Netcher is always written first. You see it in the glyphs over here in the first column. Netcher. So if we were to read this literally, it would be Netcher Medew. But nobody says that. Nobody says Netcher Medew. Everybody always says Medew. You know, they may pronounce it different. Medew Netter. Madu Ndele. Medew Netcher. You got some people that will roll the R's. But anyway, so to keep it going. So here's some examples. Medew Netcher. We have Hem Netcher, which Netcher is written first. So literally we'd be saying Netcher him, but that would be incorrect. It's actually Hem Netcher, which is divine servant, but we would call it a priest. We have Hetepu Netcher, which are divine offerings. Za Nasut, where Nasut is written first. You had to see the sedge plant. We would say Nasut Sa, but that would be incorrect. It's actually Sa Nasut, which is son of the king. But we would simply say prince. We have Sat Nasut, which is daughter of the king. We say princess. Mut Nasut, mother of the king. Hemet Nasut, wife of the king. We would simply say queen. Or Sesh Nasut, the scribe of the king. Or we may say royal scribe. We may say royal wife. Or we may say royal mother. Or we may say royal daughter. We may say royal son. Either way, same thing. But the point here is to show that genitive inversion exists. It's often called honorific transposition, and here are the examples. All right, so I'm going to end there. Those are the nuggets I have for today. Hopefully you all have learned something. You can always come back to this video and take screenshots or take notes on it. So I'm going to stop sharing that and pay attention to the chat now. And I literally have 10 minutes left. So any questions that anybody's watching now, any questions you may have, feel free to ask them. All right. And I'll try to be as quick as I can because we got 10 minutes. All right. So shout out to everybody who's watching. And while you all are typing your questions, because I'm looking at the chat now. Matter of fact, let me turn the chat on display. So while you're typing your questions, again, while I was going over that, I was not paying attention to the chat. So type your questions now if you had any, or comments, or what have you. But while I'm doing that, I did want to share what I was going to share with y'all before. But don't let this distract you. Now, if you got a question, type it in. All right? Type it in. But I did want to share, where is it? This right here. And this is just for, again, Mother's Day again. This is, each year I usually post this up for Mother's Day. This is from May of 2017. But if I scroll down, this is May of 2013. So as you can see, I've been posting the same picture for years. This has been 9 years now, right? So I'll just read this to you all. Heru Mut Nefer, which is the word for Happy Mother's Day. So if you want to know how to say it in ancient Egyptian language, it's Heru Mut Nefer. And I'll just read it. Mother's Day is celebrated Sunday, May 14th this year, but now that was back in 2017. The ancient Egyptian word for mother is Mut. Now, it is ironic that the English word for Mut means of no value. Unfortunately, today's world has devalued the role of mother. The word Mut is depicted as a vulture which is highly nurturing and protective of her young. The highly social mother vulture is all about community, working with her sister vultures to guard and clean up their territory. Feasting on carrion, which is dead animal flesh, they hold the ecological balance by removing the threat of germs and disease. In other words, moms fearlessly clean up the crap in our lives, which is a necessary function. The vulture was also a symbol of royalty and protection as seen on the headdress of kings and queens in Kemet. Remember this while we take a day to acknowledge our mothers, and let's not forget Mutweret, which is the great mother Africa. All right, and so that's the image that I share with the continent of Africa in the shape of a vulture, and telling people to make sure you put some respect on our mothers. All right, so anyway, just wanted to share that with y'all. Back to the business at hand. Any questions? Any questions? So I see, I don't see any questions. But Dembaba says, my biggest problem with all of this is people believe that everything in European languages. Yeah, I'm not sure if you finished your question there. Got to help me out there with that one. All right, so I don't see any questions. So either I did my job very well, or y'all are still processing what I said, or you may be scared or something. Like, what's going on? Listen, if there's no questions there, hey, that's great. That's great. Still got 5 minutes to deal with some things. So, all right, I'll do a recap then. Last week, or not last week, but last Snackable, I went over sentence structures. This Snackable, the focus was on the genitive, which is a type of substantival phrase, and we went over the two types of genitives, which are direct and indirect. Now, in future Snackables, I'm gonna touch on apposition only, and then I'll do another Snackable and I'll deal with connection. Or maybe I may deal with apposition and connection in the same video. All right, it's not much to say or demonstrate with those. All right, now all of this is taught in our classes, okay? But I go into way, much more detail and much more thorough. These Snackables are called Snackables for a reason. These are snacks. These are not full course meals. All right, these are those finger food, these chicken wings, these little, well, I don't even know why I keep saying chicken wings. Some of y'all may be on the healthy journey. So let's just say these are little slices of kale wraps and things like that. All right, but whatever the case is, these are bite size. So I still don't see any questions. So I definitely must have done my job. Well, at least you all let me know you understood. Say, hey, I got it. Just put it in the chat. I got it. I understand. Just say I understand. Give me something. Tell me something. Talk to me. Tell me something. That's how they say in the voice in the words of Shaka Khan. Tell me something good. All right. So Demba Ba. Can you show how the Europeans revamped all languages to make all languages revert back to their meanings? No, I can't do that, actually, because that's not true. All right, language, no one controls language like that. Language is a tool of communication, and because I'm on a limited time for this video, I'm gonna suggest that you look in our archives. I have videos on the mechanics of languages, or the mechanics of words, and in that video I talk about the actual makeup of language, what language is, or what a word is, and how words are really signs and they contain form and meaning. And so no one owns that. Meaning is an emergent phenomenon from a community of people. not one person, or like that. So what things mean is always dictated by context, and then the context within context is layers of that. And so we call it a speech community. And what we're calling the English language, or any language, we could say Spanish, we could say French, we could say Swahili, we could say Chiluba, whatever name we give to a language, what we're really doing is we're labeling a group of signs that people use for one another. So so I'll take one, for example, English. English is really a set of signs that are used by a group of people. And that group of people using these signs creates a speech community, and we call that English. All right. So, like I said, without taking time that I don't have for this particular video, I could break it down further, but I would suggest you do that, and by no means, I don't want to sound like I'm brushing your question off, but literally, that's just not true. That Europeans revamped all languages to make them revert to their meanings. That's just not true. That is definitely not true. All right. And maybe I'll use your question to actually do a whole video on that, to kind of reemphasize that. All right. So, hopefully that answered it though. I'm from the Caribbean that speaks English, which isn't the original language of that land. Okay. Oh, now based on that comment, if that's what you're talking, okay, if you're talking about, forcing people to speak English, or how English has become like the global lingua franca, so to speak, if that's what you're talking about, then okay, that's a different question that you're asking. Yeah, so if that's the case, then you're right. English, it has been, in a overt or subtle way been forced on people due to circumstance, due to conquest. If that's what you mean, the English language spread across the world through conquest. 1, 2, through trade, because English speakers are the dominating, are among the dominating folks on the world stage. The United States of America is one of the superpowers of the world. It's an economic giant of the world. A lot of things are traded by way of and with the United States of America, and the United States language is English. So, and then prior to that, it was England, Britain, the UK, United Kingdom, and what have you. Okay. And then now along with that, you have the Spain, you have the Spaniards, the Portuguese. So in South America, what dominates there are those languages. Brazil. And look at Haiti, French. The French. Look in Africa. You got Francophone countries. Okay, now all of these things were done by conquest, conquering, colonialism. Now, so if that's what you're talking about, then yeah. So that's so if that's what you're talking about, yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. And then but you asked me if I can show that. Well, it's really nothing to show. It's just that, either two major things: conquest, colonizing, or trade. All right. That's pretty much it. Same thing happened with Arab. The Arab conquest, Arabic, listen, Arabic being spoken on the continent of Africa is due to conquest. Those same two things: conquest, colonizing, conquest, or trade. All right. Egypt now is the language in Egypt, modern Egypt is Arabic. You go across North Africa from Mauritania, Morocco, and all that. Those are Arab speaking communities. But anyway, my time is up. I want to keep this under an hour, and I'm at the hour mark now. So I'm going to say I appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Hopefully you all have learned something today as a snackable. You know, dip these snacks in whatever sauces that you like. And so remember, just this one is about the genitive construction, which is one of three ways to express substantival phrases. And so next Snackables, I'll go over the other two, which is apposition and connection. All right. Now all these little nuggets, they add up. Okay, these are healthy snacks that I'm giving you all. They add up because the more you understand about these type of things, the more you will be able to discern in conversations in YouTube land among YouTubians, and Facebookians, and people in the circus community that speak about Egypt and things like that. You'll have some better understanding to discern if what they're saying is true or false, live or Memorex, right or wrong. All right. Now remember, you can always register to the class, sabreuniversity.com, and make sure you register for enrolling in classes. Check out the site. And we have some things in the works for the site that we'll be announcing as they unfold. All right. So with that, again, happy Mother's Day. Make sure you all contact all the women in your life and wish them a happy Mother's Day. We have to celebrate the women and motherhood, man. I don't know how many of y'all who are watching now have children, brothers. I don't know how many of you have children. If you do, among those, I don't know how many of you have witnessed the birth of your child or children, but I'm telling you, boy, it's an amazing thing. From that moment forward, that woman is amazing, giving birth and then nurturing and caring for the child. And obviously, it's not just on the women; it's on men and women to raise children. But each gender, or the male or mother or father, are responsible, or have different functions within that, but both are responsible for raising children. We got to get back to that family structure. But anyway, with that, I'm gonna say Shem Hotep, and hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.